Welcome to, we're going to say it, Victory Monday here on Flight Plan. The Jets get off the schneid with a wild 39-38 win over the Bengals in Cincinnati. Aaron Glenn has his first win as a head coach. Justin Fields gets some redemption after a really difficult week for him. An exhausting game. I hope that everybody slept well last night, got up and is ready to go here. We appreciate you joining us on the live edition. Tim McMaster with Zack Rosenblatt. Like the show wherever you're watching or listening, and also welcome to the Baggage Handlers as always if you're here on YouTube, and give us a 5-star review wherever you're watching. Zack is back from Cincinnati, early flight this morning. He is done recording that other show that everybody's commenting on in the comments, which I thought was really funny. How you doing, Zack?
I'm good. I'm tired. I had to listen to Connor talk for the last hour.
Do you get to talk on that show? I feel like it's the opposite, where like you get to do most of the talking here.
Little funny inside baseball, and I'm only going to share this because it's gotten better since. But after one of the early episodes, we had like a meeting with the producers, and they were trying to say like, Connor, you're talking for too long. And they're like, Connor, can you guess what the percentage of time you spent talking versus how much Zack spent talking on like the second episode? And it was like he had talked like 65% of the episode, whereas I only talked like 35%.
I actually would have taken over.
But we've evened out quite a bit. He's gotten a lot better. As have I. We've figured each other out. But yeah, that comes to the territory of potting with Connor Hughes.
I am well aware. I am well aware of that. That's for sure. All right, let's get right into this. This is the 4 Downs edition of the podcast, which means we'll focus in on 4 key things from the game. And for a change, these are good things. These are fun things. There's no downers in this rundown. Originally, I had a few like, maybe I'll put this in to be a little critical, and I threw it out, Zack. And I said, you know what?
We're a positive podcast.
This show will be nothing but love as the Jets got their first win. We're going to start though where we have to, which is Justin Fields. 21 of 32, 244 yards, a touchdown, missing Garrett Wilson and Josh Reynolds, his top 2 weapons. And I will add that yardage did not all come late in the fourth quarter, which has been a thing with this team. It was throughout. He threw the ball downfield at times. And he opened up after the game. And I think we should start with that, Zack. Just like he talked around it during the week, right? He took the high road. He said he's not on social media. But I think it was pretty clear after this game that everything that transpired with the team being winless, with the owner, Woody Johnson, being really critical of his play, that it was an emotional week for Justin Fields.
I mean, he kept referring to the week he had. And if you look at the week he had, what happened in the week is, as we found out, he had to compete to start. And he had his owner say that he was no good, and then he was the reason why they're 0-7. And so, he was asked about the week, and he talked about outside noise, and then the follow-up, I believe, was Rich Samini, where he's like, I was actually specifically talking about Woody Johnson's comments about you. And he's like, I count that as, he basically was saying Woody Johnson is outside noise. And that was kind of the like answer that a lot of guys were given. It was like, all we care about is the people in this locker room,
not the building, the locker
who are playing on that field. And I mean, it was, amazing quote. Mike Silver, and I actually stole this line for my story, but Mike Silver quote tweeted, and he was like, Justin, the outside noise is coming from inside the house. And it was really funny. Like the negativity and the motivation being the owner of the team. Like it's like the most Jetsian comeback story of all time. They came back despite criticism from their boss. Like it's just so perfect. But Justin Fields, like, he deserves a lot of credit, man. He showed a lot of mental strength. He showed a lot of grit. And, he talked a lot about how emotional he talked about how and this was one of the big things in my story. Like he said on Saturday, he went in the closet and cried on the floor. And, just like, he's a very spiritual person. He talks about God all the time. And he talks like, and he leans on his faith, as I wrote, like in times of peril and in times of prosperity. Like he's big on leaning on his faith and turning that way, but he was having a hard time with it. It seems like, just based on everything that was happening. And remove the Woody stuff, like the way he was playing, like he was not playing with somebody who had any confidence in himself. Like that was the last 2 weeks, they didn't score a touchdown largely because he was scared to throw the ball. And so, whatever it was that turned him around, whether it was, a conversation with his family or turning to his faith or his teammates rallying behind him or whatever it was, like he came out and played better than he has since week one. Like that was his best game since week one. If he plays again, like we need to caution him by saying this was against an absolutely terrible defense. We need to see him do it against quality opponents, but this was encouraging. And again, considering he might not have been starting if Tyrod Taylor didn't have a freak injury again, like poor Tyrod just has the worst luck. He probably wouldn't even have played on Sunday, but he did, and he played well. And so they don't win without Justin Fields playing that way.
He completed passes to 9 different receivers in this game too, which I guess is partially because Garrett Wilson wasn't there, right? Like the guy that he would normally target, but he really spread the ball around. And you said it. He just looked more confident, man. He looked like a different guy in the decisions he was making and everything that he was doing out there. Was any of that play call related, or was it just the defense related? Like when you look at like the change in Justin Fields, besides like, him relying on his faith and all of that, like something clicked here.
I think it was a combo of everything. I do think the play calling was a lot better. I thought Tanner called a really good game there. I just talked about this on the last pod, so it's fresh on my mind anyway. But like we would have driven a lot of this conversation around the moment where he checked out of a QB sneak and tossed it to Breece Hall.
Yes.
And because that was a maddening play, it felt like a turning point because like that turned a 3-0 deficit into a 10-0 deficit, and it always felt like this team was toast at that point this season. And the combo of why is he doing that and why is that even an option? Like, so that falls on the offensive coordinator as much as Justin Fields. Because if you have a check, that's because if you see something, you're supposed to check to it. But why is a halfback toss on 4th and 1 the check? Like, so that's.
And I also wonder what he saw, because they weren't like on the replay. It's not like they loaded up the middle. Like the defense had not like loaded up the middle.
Then there were a few people who pointed out that I was being especially sassy on Twitter after that, because it just like annoyed me so much that they were like doing a call like that. Like it's such an obvious thing. Like you shouldn't be. Anyway, the point being, like after that point, like Tanner was hitting on all cylinders. And again, the biggest thing is Justin Fields being willing to throw the ball down the field. The O-line was absolutely dominant. And so, he had a couple of really good throws in there to Tyler Johnson in particular on the touchdown and the one earlier in that drive for like 30 plus yards. But yeah, the play calling was there. The running game was working even without Justin Fields running it. Like the running backs did a great job. And so you had all these combination of factors around him, and then him playing with confidence. Like that's been the thing that's been missing more than anything, is a lack of confidence. So if he at least can feel better about throwing the ball, I don't know. I feel encouraged by whether it's him or another quarterback, this team's ability to build an offense around a quarterback who's willing to do the things that Justin historically hasn't been, I would say.
All right, natural transition there to the running backs, and specifically one of them, Breece Hall, who was, if I can't imagine this happening in this world, but like if that was Breece's last game in a Jets uniform, what a way to go out. But 18 carries, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 14 yards. Plus, he threw the game-winning touchdown pass. Yeah. You can't do much more than that in a game. And he said during the week, like, I want the ball more. And they managed to work this game plan and get him the ball more. 18 carries is significant. Obviously, the yardage is because he was getting big chunk plays and he was getting to the end zone. He looked explosive. Let's start at the end and work our way back. The touchdown pass. If that's one of those plays, right, that if it doesn't work, we're all like, what was that? But then, reading about it after the game and the fact that they've been working on this play for weeks and it always works in practice and all this stuff, you get the end. Because in the moment, my thought was, why the heck are you running that play here? But then it kind of makes sense when, like, hey, no, they weren't able to stop this in practice. It seems to work. And somehow Breece Hall is like a good quarterback. And he put that ball. How many bad throws do you see on halfback options, right? He put that ball in the perfect spot where Taylor could jump up over the defender and grab it.
In a weird way, I feel like their decision to toss it to Breece Hall earlier kind of helped them there, because I feel like the defense kind of thought Breece was going to keep it. I thought it was just executed perfectly in every way. Although Mason Taylor said that Breece didn't see him in the beginning of the play when he was wide open. And so Mason Taylor was confused and thought he was going to throw it away. But like the way Mason Taylor sold it as if he was going to block for him, the way Breece like made it seem like he was going to run, he brought it all the way over there. He pump faked, like that was a ballsy move. He pump faked the throw, and then he like in the moment he's processing all this, and he's like, yeah, I saw the defensive back was facing the other way, and he was shorter than Mason, so I could throw it over his head like that. Like
that all sounds great.
It takes a level of cockiness and confidence,
Yeah.
which Breece definitely has, to do that. And yeah, this was a big game for Breece. There's obviously a lot of conversation around him at the trade deadline. He's probably been the most mentioned name out of any Jets player in terms of like trade deadline guys. If you look at any article about, oh, here's some mock trades, like he's usually one of them. And I think what he showed in that game, and we've talked about this a bit, maybe I didn't hit it hard enough, but like whether you think the Jets are going anywhere this year, he is kind of their offense. Like Isaiah Davis was fantastic also. Like I thought Isaiah looked great, but he hasn't shown that he can be a lead running back. So if you get rid of Breece Hall, you don't have anybody on this offense besides Garrett Wilson, who's hurt right now. And so that's waving the white flag on the season. And I don't know that they want to do that. And I also don't know like what a trade you can get for him that will be worth it, because I do not think it's worth just getting rid of him for a 5th-round pick. I don't see what that does for you. A 4th-round pick, maybe that's a conversation. I don't know if a team's going to give that. Maybe they would after this game, maybe help their value. A 3rd-round pick, I obviously would do. But like I just don't see that you need to do it. And I also can see a scenario where they would consider bringing him back next year because he's a good player. Like maybe he's not like Jahmyr Gibbs level, like with the Lions, but I think he's a really good player. I think he needs to be more worked into the passing game still. Like he still only had 2 targets. But yeah, that was he was probably the MVP of that game in terms of like a single player. I think the offensive line was probably the MVP like broadly, but Breece was great. Isaiah Davis was great. And, they rode the running game to victory in this game like they've talked about wanting to do. It's easier to do it against bad defenses, but they did it, and they deserve credit for it.
All right, 3rd down, the defense, not good, but got the stop. How many times has it been the other way, though? Like, I think back years ago, like in the through the Zach Wilson, all these times where like the defense was great, but would give up a touchdown at the end of the game and they lose the game. This one, the defense was terrible. And we'll get into some of the things that weren't really awful. There was some little positives.
Yeah.
But the biggest positive was the Bengals had the ball with a little under 2 minutes to go. Joe Flacco looked pretty good all day. He's back in the game. And the Jets defense comes up with a stop when all the Bengals needed was a field goal. And I think when we got to 4th down there, they were about 15 yards away from the target zone, 20 yards. So
yeah, I think they were at their 45 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was tight, and they came through with the stop when they had to. And
like
we're a positive podcast.
A couple things to that. Like the Bengals, I don't know what they were thinking with the play calling there. Number one, they like ran it on 2nd and long, I think.
Yeah.
And they didn't. I think they targeted Jamar Chase on the first play of the drive. Other than that, didn't throw it to Chase or Higgins. Like I know the Jets were like funneling their coverage that way, so they're trying to force them to go to the Princeton kid, and so that left him on an island with Jarvis Brownlee. And Jarvis Brownlee made a great play, and I tweeted this yesterday. And you and I talked about him since his first game, that game in London, where he very clearly like made an impact. Like I don't know what the heck the Titans were thinking trading this kid away for like nothing. Like it just makes no sense. Brian Callahan must have not liked him. I don't know if
there had to
have
been something in the locker room.
But like they basically got a 6th-round pick for a guy that looks like an absolute stud in the 2nd year of his rookie contract. He looks like a guy that is going to be a star for this team long term at nickel. He brings energy. He brings the boom. Like he's a really good run stopper. He's not afraid to tackle. He's not afraid of the moment. Like and the
brings attitude too, right? He embraced the moment yesterday after the game.
Like this is one of those, Joe Douglas I talked about this with one of the other reporters. Like Joe Douglas kind of was like this as Darren Muji was, where a lot of his best moves were like between the margins, where he'd claim a guy in waivers or he'd make a low-level trade and it would work out. And this feels like that, where Jarvis Brownlee and the Harrison Phillips and Briggs have been good too. But yeah, Brownlee, he's a keeper, I think, and someone you build around on that defense, and he helped save them at the end because, like you said, the defense. I have a lot of concerns coming out of this game about the defense again. The tackling was very poor. I believe they had 15 missed tackles. I mean, Samaje Perine should not be averaging 10 yards a carry. Like, and he had the one where he just got absolutely like went through that defense. Malachi Moore struggled a bit with tackling. Chase Brown is a really good player, but they had a hard time tackling him. They barely pressured Joe Flacco. At least until the end of the game. Like the first sack was the Will McDonald one. Will McDonald's first sacks in week 1, and it happened on a moment where they needed it, the second to last drive. But the last 2 weeks, I thought this defensive line was coming into its own. They still didn't force a turnover on defense, but you have Quinnen healthy, you have Harrison Phillips, you have Will McDonald, you have Jermaine Johnson. Like, you should not be only getting 1 sack. So I have concerns about the pass rush and the tackling. And, as we go forward, you're playing a Browns team that has a bad offense. How's it going to look against them? You have a couple other games coming up with good offenses, like a mix of good and bad. So, we're going to really find out what this defense is made of, because that was, you gave up 38 points. You're going to lose 95% of the time. The offense, for once, like, picked them up, like where the opposite has always been true. The offense picked up the defense, and then the defense is able to make a stop at the end. It's not enough, though. Like, you can't give up 38 points in the NFL. Like,
there was not a single moment in this game until the 4th down that I thought the Jets were going to win the game. Like, that's depressing, but like, down early and it just felt like another loss. They were down 2 touchdowns so many times throughout the game. They just kept kind of like getting a little back.
Yeah.
Even when they scored the touchdown, because of the way the defense had played, I was thinking, there's 2 minutes to go. There's no way they don't allow a field goal here. So I literally assumed a loss until that incomplete pass, which shame on me, I guess. But like,
I know
we've learned.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, throughout that game, the Jets, actually I have the box score right here. So at various points, they were down 17-3, 24-10, 31-16, 38-24, like all big leads to overcome. They kept like cutting it just close, and then it got big again. And so, like, I just in my head, I'm like, all right, well, they're going to lose. And for the Athletic, we do these takeaways things that we have to send in right when the game ends or before the game ends. And I was waiting. If when it's a close game, I try to wait as long as I can to write them, because I just do not like having to slightly reword things to make it, if I was writing towards the loss and they win at the last second. And so I waited. And then when Breece Hall threw that touchdown pass, I'm like, it kind of feels like they're going to win. I was scared because I started writing that they won. And then they had that defensive drive where they had to stop him. But I don't know, I felt like they were going to win it after that moment, because that was a play, and it just felt like a moment for this team. And we'll see if they build on it or anything. It was a clever play call and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like they were going to pull it off. I don't know why, because I've been pretty pessimistic on this team this year. But if the defense can get better and the offense also isn't going to score 39 points every week. If you can even both of them out and just have them both be average, even slightly below average, then you'll have chances in more games and you'll win more than 2 or 3 games. But if not, they're going to be a 3-win team still.
One more note on the defense. Obviously, without Sauce Gardner in there, the secondary, they did okay. Like, Lamar Chase had 12 catches, 19 targets, but just for 91 yards. So they didn't allow the big play.
Yeah.
That's 7.6 yards per catch. T. Higgins had the big play, the 44-yard touchdown, but that was his only catch. So, like, the secondary did okay. I agree that the pass rush needs to be better in a lot of things, and obviously 38 points.
Actually, one thing I didn't mention, which I should, is Jamie and Sherwood it appears suspended for the first quarter.
Was active.
Yeah,
did not. Yep.
Yeah, he was playing on special teams though. Like, it was very strange. Aaron Glenn wouldn't address it after. As I imagine, it's probably something like being late for meetings or something like that. I don't know. They probably won't tell us. Maybe it'll come out at some point. It's concerning that your captain is a guy that is being suspended for a quarter in a game where you were trying to get a win. And then Kiko Mawigo is actually in concussion protocol, but he has more time to get ready for the next game after that. But so that was concerning. Quincy came back. You could feel his energy. I don't think he had like an amazing game, but you could feel his presence being back. And he's somebody that, I guess at the end of this pod, we can allude to the trade deadline, or we can do a preview pod before the deadline or something. But I'm curious if Quincy is still a Jet the next time they suit up.
All right, 4th down. Originally, I was going to talk about the coaching staff, Aaron Glenn getting his first win, all that. But I feel like we should talk about Nick Mangold, because that ended up being like a part of this too.
Yeah.
And the fact that, hey, Jason Taylor played with Nick Mangold. His son caught the winning touchdown here. or the tying touchdown, and then the winning extra point. Nick Folk, who played 7 years with Nick Mangold. Obviously, this story had a huge impact on Jets fans. I think. I mean, the picture I used for this podcast is the fans in the crowd holding the Mangold jersey. I mean, it just kind of dominated the weekend, and I think it kind of like dominated the NFL this weekend because he was such a respected and loved guy, not just as a player for the Jets, but as a human. It's such a tragic thing. So I thought we end there, and you were in the locker room and got a chance to kind of like feel those vibes after the game.
Yeah, even just pull back the curtain fully. Like it's pregame. I'm in this Bengals press box, and I have no idea this news. I guess the news had came. I guess he had passed the night before, and the news I think got to the team in the morning.
Yeah, I think the Jets tweeted it at like around noon. So like
yeah, so I found out. So a little bit before that, I walk up to see Janae Coakley, who works for SNY, good friend. And she's like, "Did you hear what happened?" And like, she has like a look in her face. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what did the Jets do? Because that's where my brain goes. And then she said, you can't like, I wasn't going to report it anyway, but she said, like, this just happened. Like Nick passed away. And Bob Wichhausen, the play-by-play guy, was there too. He had found out, I think, either that morning or the night before. And you get to see in everybody's face. It was like, crap, man. Like he had that announcement a couple weeks ago where he needed a kidney. And apparently he'd had this issue since he was his playing days too, and which means he played through it. And as he said in his statement a couple weeks ago, he's like, I thought I had longer, but I don't know a lot about all the kidney stuff. But it felt like it came on fast, and it's really sad. You really feel for him. He's 41 years old, super young. I mean, the fact that one of his teammates is still playing for the Jets tells you how young he is. And I didn't know him. I'd never interacted with him. I did cover when he was inducted into the Ring of Honor. So I was there for his press conference. He was just so happy to be back with the Jets. And he was a real supporter of this team. He's been at practice. I know he'd been coaching some high school offensive line stuff. He went on a lot of fan podcasts. He interacted with a lot of fans. A lot of old clips are resurfacing of him. Like my memories of Nick Mangold are from afar, just knowing how good of a player he was. Even not him and DeBrickashaw, like he always associated those two guys together. And so you've seen
one of the best eras of Jets football, right?
Yeah, one of the best eras of Jets football. And so I've seen some funny. There was one funny clip of a bunch of scenes in Hard Knocks with him, and in particular, the one that people keep highlighting is by Rex Ryan. He just signs his new contract, Nick Mangold, and Rex is like, I'm concerned about Nick because last night I was in the drive. I'm concerned about it getting to his head because last night I was in the drive-through lane at a Taco Bell, and Nick Mangold was also in the line. So, and he's a guy that was beloved by his teammates. He's one of the more universally loved players that this fan base has had. Like you said, it was an era of Jets football that was good, where the offensive line, it was the last time the offensive line was good, frankly. Like this is probably the closest they've come with this group since then. Joe Tippmann had some nice things to say about him. The Bengals center, Ted Karras, I guess he knew him pretty well. He said some stuff about him. Nick Mangold Nick Folk, was crying. We only asked him a couple questions, and he was very emotional, so we weren't going to like pester him. But he's like, he was there with us at the end of that game, and I think it's pretty fitting that their offensive line had the best game of the season, where they only gave up one pressure and they rushed for over 250 yards. Olu Fashanu has his number 74. I wonder if they retired at some point. It was a good way to honor him. Really, really feel for him and his family. Prayers out to them. Sudden loss is hard to deal with. I mean, we've all probably dealt with it to some degree, and so I can't imagine what his family's going through. But the outpouring of messages and stuff like just says a lot about who he was.
Yeah, and if anybody didn't see Rex Ryan on Countdown on ESPN, I mean, you just get a feeling of like who this guy was by Rex's reaction. It was just like somebody said it in the chat here. That's like it's hard to watch, but the emotion is so pure from Rex and the love that he had for Nick Mangold. So on a day that started so terrible, the Jets end up in elation with their first win of the season, win for Aaron Glenn. So I think that we can leave it there. I think you're right, Zach. I think we're back with a trade deadline preview.
Well, maybe on Monday or something like that. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll lead up to that. But no game this week. Enjoy the win. The Jets will will be riding a 1-game win streak for 2 weeks at least. So that's exciting to know. Thanks to everybody out there for joining the Flight Plan podcast. We appreciate it, and we will talk to everybody soon.